This is not a true story. A bishop once invited a young priest to dinner, and during the meal, the priest noticed some signs of intimacy between the bishop and the housekeeper. As the priest was leaving, the bishop said to him quietly, "I can guess what you are thinking, but really, our relationship is strictly proper." A few days later, the housekeeper remarked to the bishop that a valuable antique solid silver soup ladle was missing, and this happened since the young priest's visit. So she was wondering if he might have taken it. "I doubt it," said the bishop, "but I will ask him." So the bishop wrote to the priest, "Dear father, I am not saying that you did take a solid silver ladle from my house, and I am not saying that you did not take the solid silver ladle from my house, but the fact is that the ladle has been missing since your visit." Duly, the bishop received the young priest's reply, which read, "Your Excellency, I am not saying that you do sleep with your housekeeper, and I am not saying that you do not sleep with your housekeeper. But the fact is that had you been sleeping in your own bed, by now you would have found the silver ladle." And the moral of the story is it is not words that count, but actions. Now let me come to a true story. A young wife and a dedicated mother of two was repeatedly betrayed by her unfaithful husband. After a long and painful struggle to save the marriage, the wife had no alternative but to accept the breakdown of her marriage. She had grounds to apply for annulment. I was very close to the family and was discussing this possibility. I was amazed by this young wife's reaction. "No, father," she told me. "My wedding was valid. My love and promises were true. I have decided to stick to my side of my marriage vows. I shall live for my children from now on without letting in another man in their life and in my life. Because I want my children to grow up knowing that a promise made in the name of God can never be taken back or suspended. God keeps his side of the promise. He loves us even when we betray him. If my children do not see me living up to this kind of love, who is going to show it to them?" I simply shut up and stood in awe and admiration at the faith of this young mother. She understood full well what the law of God is really about. See, the Pharisees were experts of the law, but they manipulated the letter of the law to escape and avoid paying the full price of observing the spirit of the law. This people honors me with their lips, but their hearts are far away from me. You disregard God's commandment but cling to human tradition, says Jesus in the gospel. As someone once said, The most dangerous phrase in any language is, "We have always done it this way." We have always done it this way. This is our practical law. We follow the law of custom. And you know our human customs. Experts can help you fill in your income tax returns in such a way as to avoid paying it. Workers will sign in for work on time, but they start working much later in the day. Rich donors can donate impressive amounts of money during these big charity campaigns, whilst at the same time they hide the dishonest source of that very money. We know how to spoil our children with toys, beautiful gadgets, but our real reason is to avoid spending time with them. And the list of giving importance to the letter, but not to the spirit of the law goes on. We must not shy away from admitting that it is much easier to do our Sunday duty of attending Mass than to live up to what God is asking of us the rest of the week. It is easier to make sure that the host and the wine I consecrate during the Mass are made of the right ingredients, that I use the proper golden vessels and chalices, and say the right prayers during Mass. Then it is easy to accept to be transformed by the love of Jesus, so that He may indeed touch those I meet in my community, in my family, in my workplace the rest of the week. Yes, the law can be an ass when I use it to avoid paying the much heavier price of what the law of God is asking of me. With the law of men, be it civil, religious, traditional, I can calculate the limit to the price of pleasing God. But with the law of God, it is so hard to calculate to satisfy exactly His requirements. Not because He is a harsh judge, but because God's law is the law of love. And we know well enough how love can be unpredictable and undefinable. Because I simply never know what love is going to ask from me next. A loving word, an action, a thought made out of love are always new, fresh. They are a gift to be received and given. Beautiful indeed, but tiring, demanding. Anyone who brings up children and loves husband or wife or takes care of his or her elderly or sick parents know what I am talking about. The reason is as simple as it is beautiful. For love to be real and indeed coming from God, it has to be love in action and not in words. This is the true religion, says St. James in the second reading. Be doers of the word, not hearers only, deceiving yourselves. No, it is not enough to pray, to come to Mass. That's necessary, that's important. But we need to start living it in action, day to day. As Mother Teresa constantly reminded her sisters, love in action, doing small things with great love. This is the greatest and the only commandment Jesus talks about. Which is the greatest of commandments? Love one another as I have loved you. Let us open our hearts daily more and more to this one and only true commandment. If we embrace it deep within our hearts, all our outside actions will be transformed into acts of love, from washing dishes to having a shower, wearing a face mask to wearing a big radiant smile, from coming to church to becoming a living church, from receiving Holy Communion to experiencing true communion with those around us. This is the big difference between the human law and God's law. This is why human law, when it is just written in law and regulation books, yes, the human law can be an ass. We craftily use it for our own advantage, our own self interest. But the law of God is carved deeply within our heart and our soul. And that is why it will make us free and madly in love with Him and with one another. And this is precisely the reason why the world thinks that God's law makes an ass of us all. So the world prefers the human law, which is an ass. Thank you, and God bless you.